Okay, so first of all, welcome to our home. We just have a few simple rules that we think will help us all get along.
Right. Yeah. Welcome. Will. I'm sorry I almost beat you to death. But moving forward, so there's a red door and then there's the front door, and we always keep them locked, and only my wife and I have the key. But I'm sure that won't be important later on in the plot.
Right, and so we have 2 meals a day of 15 to 25 kernels of corn and 8 peas, and we always eat together as awkwardly and intensely as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just how we do it. And if Grandpa's old room is rocking, then don't come a knocking, if you know what I mean. Travis knows what I mean, buddy. Hey, buddy, don't stare at Kim that way. That's different kind of awkward.
Yeah, please, Travis, keep it professional. And we all take turns walking the dog until he inevitably dies, which will most definitely happen somewhere in the last act.
And the last thing, this is just me, but no one in this house is allowed to wear blue socks. Don't ever ask me why, or I'll put a bullet right through your head, because I love my family.
Yeah, so who wants to play Chinese checkers?
Yeah, so that was intro skit theater. It was a little longer than usual for a
Yeah.
movie that seemed very long.
So this is The Horrible Idea, a podcast about horror movies. I'm Stephanie. You just heard the dulcet tones of Jack. Hit us up on social media. We're on Instagram at The Horrible Idea, and we're on Twitter at HorriblePod. And this week, Jack, what are we talking about?
This week we are talking about It Comes at Night. We don't know what it is, but it's coming at night. Stephanie, give us some facts about this movie?
It is a feature-length film, so it is a movie. This was released April 29th, 2017, written and directed by Trey Edward Schultz.
The budget was $5 million, which was mostly peas and carrots, I believe. The box office was $20 million. IMDb gave it a 6.2 out of 10. The critics gave it a 87, and the audience gave it a much more understandable 44.
Well, I think this is definitely, I feel like the A24 horror movies they tend to do that, where the critics really love them, and the audience is a little less convinced.
Kind of like A24's other films as well.
Well, yeah, I know you're an avowed hater of The Witch, so.
I love The Witch. It's one of my favorite films. I don't think we'd ever do it on this show, though, but...
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably get there someday.
Preconceptions?
So I really love Trey Edward Schultz's debut feature-length film called Prisha, which is like a family drama, and it's cast primarily with his family. He cast his real-life aunt, Prisha Fairchild, and it's a family drama, but in many ways, it's actually a more successful horror movie than this was. And everything from like the cinematography to the score, it's very... I feel like, I'll get into it later, but I feel like that movie is why we got this movie, for better or for worse.
Well, I know who to blame. I had never heard of this movie, really. Not on my radar at all. But that was probably for the best. I'm being negative for some comic effect. I did not hate this movie, but I did not enjoy this movie.
Between this, The Conjuring, and A Quiet Place, how do those three rank?
Oh, this is at the bottom of that list.
Really? You hated this more than A Quiet Place?
Well, here's the thing. Oh, no. I hated The Quiet Place more. Definitely.
I was going to say, you were full of vitriol about that
No. I although very similar actually in many ways. Just sort of like plot wise. Let's break down that plot.
After a mysterious apocalypse leaves the world with few survivors, two families are forced to share a home in an uneasy alliance to keep the outside evil at bay, only to learn that the true horror may come from within.
Yeah. The true horror was the friends you made along the way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm probably gonna invoke The Road a few times. You know, spoiler alert, it's a sad movie and everyone dies. Or is at least, set up to die.
You know what movie we've done that this actually reminded me the most of? And it's one that will never see the light of day, but The Ritual. This actually reminded me a lot of The Ritual, where it's just sort of like, I really like some of the visual elements. Like, I thought the way he used, like, the lanterns down those dark hallways and the geography of the house, I thought some of the cinematography elements were really cool, but the plot and the script just lost me.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem, and this happens sometimes, and I don't know, maybe, sometimes it's like the producers and like the company you're working for, but so this wants to be an art film in a lot of ways. It really wants to be like a sort of meditation on grief and tension, but it's trying to be a horror film, and it does not succeed at either of those.
Yeah, so I guess this is as good a time as any to get into my crackpot theory of this movie. So basically, like I said, the film Krisha, which was his debut and got a lot of critical praise. It won, I think, the Grand Jury Prize at South by Southwest. It did really well. And like I said, it has a lot of elements in it that kind of evoke a horror mood within the realm of a family drama. It's basically like his aunt comes to dinner, or I think it's supposed to be his mom in the movie, and she seems to be in recovery from some sort of addiction. I can't honestly remember, but kind of chaos ensues and things get really kind of uncomfortable, and then at a certain point it kind of crescendos. But he works with just like with the camera and with the score in such a way that it really feels like a horror movie. And what I think happened was, critics and audiences and Hollywood suits saw that and were like, this guy's got to make a horror movie. And so then he took what was sort of like an idea for, this, meditation on grief or whatever, but then the studios wanted him to make a horror movie, so they just kind of slapped the two things together. And I don't really have any background on this besides just, like I said, my crackpot theory, but there was a lot of hype around him when Krisha came out, and the fact that, a lot of people really did say, like, this guy should make a horror movie. So I think that might be part of it.
Yeah, and I've read a few things where he said, like, he came up with the title in the beginning and didn't know, like, what came in the night, and so just sort of, like, kept it. And that might have been a little bit of, like, well, it sounds like a horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, I really wanted to like this, like I said, because I loved his other film. And the cast is stacked. It's, like, a really great cast. I had fun with the 6 Degrees of...
Yeah, Kit Harington and Kristen Stewart.
I mean, I think you're the only person who would mistake Riley Keough for Kristen Stewart.
She had that vibe. I liked her. So my trivia, I didn't do trivia up front, but Riley Keough, is that how you say it?
I believe so.
Is Elvis's granddaughter.
Yeah.
There you go.
That she is. She's been really great in a bunch of things. Like,
never seen her.
I think probably her most... You've seen Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, I have. Was she one of the wives?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. She's been in a bunch of stuff, but, like, in not necessarily, like, the biggest role in it. But yeah, she is one of the wives that she kind of gets along with the the, what are they called? She gets along with the war boy who kind of like joins their team. She's the redhead, but anyway. And then Christopher Abbott, who you thought was Kit Harington, he's really great. So he's been in a bunch of like indie films, but he was also sort of famous for being in the first couple seasons of Girls.
I've definitely seen him before. He does look like Kit Harington. I mean, no,
yeah,
with especially sort of with the beard.
They're both sort of just like dark-haired, handsome guys, I guess. Yeah,
like me. Yeah,
but also I think Christopher Abbott is a way better actor than Kit Harington. Pew pew.
He was very good. Yeah, he was. So let's get into our favorite characters since we're just talking about characters.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like that's the best part of this movie is the promise of this cast, because they're all really great actors. So I really like Riley Keough, like I said. I thought she was really great in the first season of The Girlfriend Experience, which is a Starz TV series, which has horrible connections. It was showrun and directed by Amy Seimetz, who directed She Dies Tomorrow, an early horrible movie.
I feel like I need to see that.
I think you would enjoy it. I mean, did you see the movie, The Girlfriend Experience?
No.
The Soderbergh movie? It's similar, except it doesn't have Sasha Grey in it. It's, mainstream actors. But anyway, it's very good. I liked it. And then Carmen Najoro, who plays, is it Tracy, the wife? She's been really great in a lot of things. Most recently, I think I saw her in True Detective, season 3, and she was really great in that. And then, I also really like Kelvin Harrison Jr., who plays the son. I can't remember any of their names because they were all very nondescript. Yeah, he was really good, and he seems sort of like caught between...
His name is Travis, and his mother's name is Sarah.
Sarah. I think I split the difference with Tracy. Anyway, so he's very good in this sort of grim, caught between childhood and adulthood, and caught between competing interests, and I don't know, he's just having a hard time, but I think he did pretty well with the material, considering.
Yeah, I feel like I like Travis too. I think he was my favorite character, probably. I realized in watching it that not a lot of movies... So there was like a creepiness to him, like, listening in on this other family that moves in and sort of like staring at this other guy's wife from the beginning. But it's like not a stalker level creepiness. It's like a kid being creepy, kind of. And maybe it got to a little weird place at one point.
When he was in the attic and Will and Kim are kind of laughing in their bedroom, and he kind of laughs along with them, I was like, okay,
that was wholesome.
You're getting a little too creepy. I thought that was
wholesome. Like that's what kids do. Kids,
if I was like, he's not a kid though, he's 17.
True. Yeah.
And like, if I was like, I don't know, staying at somebody's house and then I heard like their nearly adult son laughing along with me, I would be very freaked out.
If he was 14, it would have been a different thing. But yeah, and that was another thing, because like, so he's like 17 years old, which is like on the edge of being an adult. And he's like in this house with only his family, and then this sort of like other couple comes and he's like, oh, a woman who I can actually, theoretically have. And their scene in the kitchen was probably my favorite scene in the movie, where
it was the best scene.
Yeah. And there's like it was a good movie in that it had subtle things like that, where so the scene is like she's like drinking milk or something because she can't sleep, and he walks in and he's like, hey, I can't sleep either, and she's like, but he's also like awkward, like, I should just go, and she's like, no, hang out, talk to me. And so
he also strangely sorry, were you gonna get into what they talked about?
No.
Well, they're talking about what foods would you have
Right.
if we weren't in this situation, basically. And she lists like cupcakes and bread pudding and a bunch of sweets, and this kid doesn't like any sweets. And clearly they haven't been in this like apocalypse for that long, because he talks about like birthday parties. Yeah. But he like only likes Rice Krispie treats, and I was like, all right, kid.
That's weird, but that's weird in like a realistic, like you might know a person who is like that.
Yeah, and it was the most like realistic scene, I think, in the whole movie.
And, you know, we haven't talked about this that much, but like a really realistic scene in a horror movie can be really great, because you're suddenly like grounding everything into like normalcy, which gives you room to then like break the normalcy. And even at the end, like, so they're like talking, and all of a sudden he's just like staring at her tits, and she just kind of like looks down and then looks back up at him, and he's like, I gotta go. And she's like, okay. You know, she was just like, dude, relax. And her like reaction was very much like, you know, not like, she wasn't scared, and she wasn't like, she's just like, you know, that's not cool, buddy.
I mean, I don't know. She was sort of like, oh yeah, I wasn't much older than you are when I met Will, and I don't know, she seems like she's probably like maybe, I don't know, 6 years older than him, or 8. Yeah. I don't know. She's in her mid-20s probably. And
so my other character I really liked was Will, who was a great actor and had a really subtle performance in that, you know, to back up to the plot a little bit. So in the beginning, it's the one family. It's Travis and Sarah and super scary military dad, Paul. You know, and then Will, like, and everyone else in the world is like either dead or has this disease or whatever, is scattered. So Will breaks in thinking that no one's home to get some water for his family. And Paul beats the shit out of him and ties him to a tree for a couple of days. And then everything's fine. But a lot of the answers that Will gives are sort of, they're fine. Like, okay. But Paul never really trusts him. And then, like, as the movie goes, like, his story, everything is like a little weird, and he gives some conflicting answers that he then has, like, you know, a very reasonable, you know, reason why he said what he said, but you never know throughout the whole movie. And I think Kim has that too a little bit, like, you don't really know what's going on.
It doesn't pay off. It's not like that the things that he's sort of half-truthing, it's like it comes back like, oh, I was lying. I don't know, you know? It's just supposed to add to like the unease, I think. And a thing that we haven't really mentioned yet is that this movie, it was released in 2017, but it has heavy COVID-19 vibes.
Yeah.
Like, heavy. Like, they're like, at several points, like, wear your mask and gloves. Yeah. Like, don't go near them without your mask. And, like, we have to quarantine in our rooms. And we have to wash everything. It's very, very much, like a COVID-19 but not COVID-19 movie.
Yeah, prescient and
which I think
prescient.
is part of why I had such a like just unpleasant experience with it. I think that's part of it.
And I think if it were to come out, you know, now, I don't know. In some ways it made it less scary for me, but more just like uncomfortable. Because I'm like, okay, yeah, you wear a mask, you wear gloves. That's what you do. That's not scary. Yeah, that's just normal life.
It wasn't scary. It was just like a bummer. Because like I don't
know. Tropes, you know, it was tropey. I would say it was like a art school student wearing a horror movie costume.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I mean, first off, we just have to say, like, spoiler alert, the dog dies, which, like, honestly, I would love for there to be a movie, Like, this happened in the last one. Color Out of Space. The dog dies.
It feels so lazy.
I just, like, I would really like it to not happen in one of these movies. Like, I'm trying to think of one where the dog lives that we've done. Like, dog dies in The Conjuring. You know, and I don't even think that that's a spoiler at this point. Like, as soon as you see a dog that shows up in a horror movie, you're like, oh, well, that dog's gonna die.
Yeah. Or other animal, horses, lots of animals die.
Llamas.
Llamas mutate and die. Yeah, there's a very ominous door. Painted red, nonetheless.
The red door.
The red door.
Yeah, it's the only door in and out.
Yeah, there's a couple of waking up inside of a nightmare, and like waking up from a nightmare, but you're in another nightmare.
Yeah, which happened in the '06 Wicker Man also.
Yeah, yeah.
Nick Cage is like having a nightmare, and then he wakes up, but then he looks down and there's like a waterlogged kid in his arms, and then he wakes up again, and then he's just sitting there and he's fine.
Yeah, nightmare Inception.
Oh man.
There is puking up black liquid and like your eyes turning all black, and that's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's in like music videos.
Yes,
it's used a lot in music videos.
I just recently watched the Billie Eilish documentary where they go over how they did the whole "When the Party's Over" video.
The Prodigy did this a lot.
Sure. Big Old Scary House, sure.
Yeah, and it. So I read a little bit about the production. I know. So this had some of the vibes of The Conjuring, where it's like a big house and you can't really tell like where corridors are and what the layout is.
Yeah, kind of.
And he said he did it intentionally that way, but it's supposed to sort of, I don't know, unsettle you a little bit.
It reminded me of A Quiet Place too, in that, you know, just like they can't go outside, they're sort of like super paranoid. There's lots of rules. It's a bad movie.
There are a lot of
rules. So let's do everybody's favorite part, Stephanie's 6 Degrees of Cinema.
Yeah, I like this one because, like I said, this is a really great cast, and there's a lot of great crossovers. I honestly probably could have done a 6 Degrees with just like the actors in this, what movies they've kind of all connected with each other on, but I didn't. So I'll start with Carmina Jojo, who's a really great actress. So she was in, like I said earlier, season 3 of True Detective with Mahershala Ali, and he won the Oscar for his role in Moonlight, where he starred with Andre Holland. Also really great. He plays Dr. Algernon on The Nick, which is sort of a underseen, I feel like, TV show with Clive Owen that was on Cinemax.
That was filmed.
It's recently.
Partly was filmed on the block that I used to live.
Yeah. So it's on HBO Max now. I encourage everyone to go see it. It's really good. Bono from U2's daughter is in it. She's really good. So anyway, Andre Holland was in The Nick. And then Coleman Domingo was in season 2 of The Nick in kind of a small role. Coleman Domingo will be in the upcoming Candyman.
Ooh.
So this is it counts as 6 Degrees because they've already filmed it. So he'll be in Candyman with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who was Bobby Seale in The Trial of the Chicago 7, which starred Kelvin Harrison Jr. as Fred Hampton. And Kelvin Harrison Jr. was Travis, so. Yeah, so I'll just as a rehash, it's Carmina Jojo, Mahershala Ali, Andre Holland, Coleman Domingo, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and Kelvin Harrison Jr. Make a movie with that cast.
Yeah.
That's a great cast there.
You know what movie they could make? My pitch of the week, which is a reboot of this movie as a realistic envisioning of, instead of an unnamed disease that kills everybody, it's just this pandemic we're living through. And so it's two families that have to live in an apartment together for 14 months. And, they go through the whole thing. They make sourdough. They have Zoom meetings. They get in arguments. They binge watch TV. Instead of the horror of humanity's true nature, you get the horror of boredom, low-grade depression, repetition, and mask sores. And then, I think maybe end of the season cliffhanger. The two couples, get a little very bored. Maybe they swap wives. A little swinging going on.
So, I'm with you.
Sure.
I think this is the first one of your pitches that I probably would not watch. Just, at least maybe I'd binge it in like 5 years after I've gotten the full taste of the pandemic out.
I understand. I'm ahead of my time. The world's not ready for me.
Well, with the wheels of Hollywood, it probably won't get made for like 5 years anyway. I have faith in you.
You are the only one. What is the horrible idea?
What is it? Yeah, this one was, I don't know. I feel like this was just sort of like, what if the real danger is ... people?
Hell is other people. Yeah, Shakespearean. Everyone dies.
Yeah, in some ways it's not, obviously the plot is different, but this felt like sort of the same sort of terror vibes of like Last House on the Left, where it's just like, I don't know, people, especially the climax.
The inhumanity of man.
Yeah, just sort of like, I don't know, people at their, boiled down to their worst possible traits.
Yeah, and it had a zombie movie vibe as well. Like, it could have been a zombie movie very easily. Like,
yeah.
I mean, theoretically, it was a zombie. Like, just really, not, effective zombies. Grandpa looked like a zombie.
Grandpa was having a hard-ass time, man.
I know. And the dog. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. Final reactions. We talked about before we didn't want this to be a sad.
I know, we've kind of made it a bummer. That's okay. You know what? This is what The Ritual was like.
It was.
And I think somewhat blessedly that podcast burnt up somewhere. So
ritualistically.
So this was a bummer. I wanted to like it. Okay, hold on. Let me start over. So final reactions. I think that there are a few things that this movie did really well. So, like I said, I really liked the cinematography. I thought some of the shots were beautiful, especially kind of some of the when Travis is walking through the house with just like his flashlight or lantern or whatever, and kind of illuminating the dark hallways, and like some of the shots when Paul and Will first drive out to go like find his family was really beautiful looking. I think the direction was good, and like I said, the cast is great. But it was a bummer. And I wanted to really like it. I went in with good intentions because, like I said, I loved Trey Edward Schultz's debut so much. It's like probably one of my favorite sort of debut features maybe ever. I thought it was just really well done. But the script and the plotting just kind of drags it all down. And sophomore slumps are very common, his third movie, Waves, came out, I think, last year and was really well liked. I haven't seen it yet, but then, and there are core issues with this, but I think largely there's so many COVID-19 related themes and devices, and obviously it was filmed before COVID, but as we're now emerging from like the darkest days of the pandemic, and I've been fully vaccinated and a lot of people I know are, and so like kind of diving back into something that was so like mired in dread, wearing a gas mask, violent distrust of strangers. It was just sort of hard to, I don't know, it was hard to kind of enjoy being there. And this is coming from someone who watched Contagion at the beginning of the pandemic. Like, I definitely don't shy away from, kind of relevant content that maybe is dark or whatever. I think it's bad timing and not well scripted. So I give it a 4 out of 10 for scares, just because that final scene with Riley Keough is actually pretty fucked up and scary. And entertainment factor, I give it a 4. 2 points for the casting, director, and 2 points for the directing and cinematography, but -6 for the plot.
Yikes. The cinematographer is Drew Daniels, who I think has shot all of this director's work. So he's good. I did that thing that I've done a few times where I started this movie and I hated it immediately, so I stopped it and I just gave it a day and then came at it with the fresh eyes and watched it again, and still didn't like it, but I sort of tried to find things I liked. And there was that sort of tension, the awkwardness, the sort of like, I don't know, it was like I said, you want to make a horror movie, make a horror movie. You want to make an art movie, make an art movie. You want to make an art horror movie, I want you to. It's really hard. I think like that's what we've seen. Like, what was the one? She dies tomorrow. Similarly, like I'm not against art horror films at all, but they are difficult to pull off, I think, and you really have to have a vision that includes the horror, not is like adjacent to the horror. But whatever. It was the road light. It was just missing cannibalism. Scare factor 2, entertainment factor 3, baby.
Yeah. Well, those are pretty bad scores, but I feel like next time they're going to be higher. Jack, what are we doing next time?
Yeah. Oof, man. There have not been a lot of movies that I had such a emotional connection to. But next time we will be talking about the 1973 classic, The Exorcist. And you will all have to listen to the story of how it traumatized me as a child. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you are traumatized. Don't be scared. It's all going to be okay. Nature is healing.
Right. And, Jack, I don't think you're alone in having traumatizing experiences with The Exorcist. From what I've heard,
Yeah, people...
I've seen it before.
But I've
heard a lot of people had a hard time with it. So if you have any interesting facts, if you have horror stories, if you peed in one of the theater chairs back in 1973 while watching The Exorcist, hit us up. Or if you have a suggestion for a movie that you think is really scary and or fun, you can let us know on Twitter at horriblepod, or you can email us at thehorribleidea@gmail.com.
And last rule, you gotta put the seat down, guys. Travis, you gotta put the seat down. We have 2 ladies living here now. I will shoot you right in the head.